Hey, you beautiful being. Welcome to Empowered Human. I am your host, Nina Garcia, and I'm going to be honest with you. I'm recording this after the episode that you're about to listen to. I cried several times in this episode, not because it was so sad that I could not keep it together, but because it was so freaking powerful. The way that our guest, Jessie FierceGrace Torres, takes darkness and is able to alchemize it into light. Please listen to the full episode as you move forward, because as you all know, we are big here on transforming hard conversations into teachable moments. And when I tell you that Jessie is going to be able to do this for you, all you got to do is say, I consent to moving forward on this journey. Yes? Please have your journal out or a really good friend to dialogue with you about what comes up for you in this episode. It is incredibly powerful and time sensitive. There are things that Jessie has to offer you. Listen through to the full episode. I guarantee if you are out there saying, I know the pain of darkness, Nina, I feel like I cannot get out of it. I feel that it is all oppressive, all encompassing, and I don't know how to find the light. Listen to this episode, because Jessie is going to help you find the light. Now, without any further ado, you know that I am very curious. Are you ready to play? Welcome to Empowered Human, the dramatically playful podcast that invites you to heal humanity, the one within you, me, and the world at large. I'm your host, drama therapist, empowerment specialist, and not to mention empowered human, Nina Garcia, and I'm so stoked you're joining me on the journey. Every Wednesday, you are invited to explore transforming from powered to empowered with genuinely human stories of courageous existence, healing from invalidation, and truly belonging to you. So wherever you are in the spectrum, from empowerment curious to empowered human ambassador, this podcast is designed to humanize. Get ready to lean into your edge, heal your worldview, and finally belong to you. This is Empowered Human. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and take a breath on in. Ooh, and just exhale it out, stretch it out if you need to, ground if you need to, whatever you're needing in this moment. As we welcome the fabulous Jessie FierceGrace Torres to our stage. Welcome to the Empowered Human podcast.
Thank you so much, Nina. I'm super excited to be here.
Oh my gosh. I gotta say, I know that I gave you a whole spiel on this was the agenda and this is how we usually run it, but I think the listeners need to know I had a hellacious time yesterday trying to get you hooked into this episode. And it was so, y'all, it was so bad for me. I literally was like tearing up. It was intense for me. Okay. And I was like, I don't understand. I'm doing everything I can. And I felt like the walls were just closing in on me, right? I was like, I must not look professional. I'm not showing my most vibrant self. What is Jessie going to think of me over here, right? And you had this beautiful line, and it was not a line like a scripted line. It felt very genuine in the moment. And it was exactly what I need to hear. You said, well, Nina, you need to think about, instead of what you're losing in this hour, what is it that you could be gaining? What is it that maybe this is a time that you could be gaining? And it was exactly what I needed to hear. And it is so on par with you and your message, right, today. So I just wanted to share this in particular because we've got this one-liner over here, right? If you don't look for the gift in your darkest moments, you will only remember the pain. That is your one-liner. That is already, audience. Get your journals out, write it on down, right? If you're not looking for the gift in the darkest moments, you will only remember the pain. And you clearly practice what you preach. I'm gonna roll the ball on over to you. Here's the mic. There it is. How you doing, Jessie?
Oh my goodness. That is definitely a one-liner that has burst through navigating adversity, navigating the valleys of life. And I didn't always have that perspective. There's been moments in my life where I was just angry and heartbroken. And I lost my older brother when I was 28 years old. He was murdered. He was only 29. He was 15 months older than me.
Oh my
And
God.
and I had been suffering sexual abuse with my father my whole life, and my brother was my only safety. And at 29, when he was murdered, I turned my back on God, faith, whatever. I was raised Catholic. I flipped God off. I'm like, screw you. I don't even know if you exist. What are you? And if you do exist, I hate you for taking my brother. How dare you?
You forsake.
And yeah, and it was a moment of honestly a massive, intense grieving, that I saw my brother. And he presented himself, and I'm literally like crying my eyes out. And my ex-husband at the time was just holding me as I'm crying, and I see him, and everything is white. He's all in white, and all he did was with his hand, he just goes, look. And all I could see was just white, and it felt peaceful. And all he said was just, everything is as it should be. And I didn't quite understand what it meant at the time, but it brought peace to my heart, like knowing that he was okay and that everything was in what I now call divine order.
Yes.
And it kind of came full circle for me. So at that point, now grasping onto having to accept a reality that I don't like, and navigating, believing that this is some weird joke, that maybe something happened and he's in some witness protection program and I'm going to see him, or he's going to send me a memo, and this didn't really happen. Yeah. Going back to life, going to the grocery store and having the checkout lady laughing, and I was angry, going, well, how can you laugh? Like, don't you know what happened? Like, this is, what kind of goes through your mind. Yeah. When I was 18, I decided that whatever my dad wanted, I would do the opposite. I thought, well, I'm 18 now, so you can't tell me what to do. So be home at 10. Okay, I'll be home at midnight, or, be home at midnight. I'll be home at 2. So I would go out. I had a friend who was 21 at the time. I was 18, and she worked at a bar. So I would just go hang out there. And I met this young Cuban guy who I did not have an attraction to Latin men because of my dad. But he was Cuban, and he was cute, and he was the DJ. And this is back in 1983. So he breakdanced, and he was the life of the party, and he was a total bad boy.
Okay. Total bad boy. And then you say this now, and I think, right, we weren't attracted to Latin men, right? This is the same father who abused you, the one that you're doing the opposite things of, right? So there's no stepdad in the picture, it was this dad. Okay. Biological dad here. We're doing the opposite things. You mentioned also growing up, a life of adversity, right? So we're already talking about abuse throughout your life and how that layers the way that we can even experience the world, right? Then you lose your brother. Right. And God, not even through anything expected, right? We lose him through unexpected, terrible circumstances. And you're still there, your world internally trying to make sense of all of this, right? And here you are, vulnerable as all get out, and you meet this Cuban bad boy who is vibrant. And I almost picture sort of like the moth drawn to the flame. And there it is.
This is the delusion. I chose him to be the one that would, take my innocence, even though my dad had already. But for me, it was like, this is the man that's going to be the one, because he was everything my dad hated. And the delusion that happens in the mind, where it's just like, oh, you're everything my dad. I'm going to use you to do this to me, because that'll really make my dad angry. Not recognizing or acknowledging at the time, I'm 18 years old, that I'm putting myself in this, giving of myself for some facade of punishment to my father. And so subsequently, what ended up happening is a friend of his came out of the military, and he came and joined our friend group. And what happened is we started to realize that we liked each other. And we went out on a date, and brought me home at 2 a.m., even though my dad said midnight. So of course my dad was on the porch, and furious. And he told him, get out. And he told me, get in the house. He, whatever, verbally bashed me all night. And then the next day, my then boyfriend, he says, so what's up with your dad? And I said, why? He was mad because you brought me home late. And he said, no. He said, that was not an angry father. That was a jealous man.
Ooh.
And though that phrase opened Pandora's box, because when I was 16, I tried to tell my mom, but I used the word molest, and in Spanish, it's, molestar means to bother or annoy. And so he twisted my words. My mom never spoke about it with me again. And so for the next 2 years, I continued to run from my dad. And when he said this to me, I told him probably more than he needed to hear. It just opened up the lie that I had been living my whole life. And I'm finally like, somebody's witnessing what I've been experiencing. And the fact that he still wanted to be with me, I was like, what? I'm gross. I had already adopted. I'm filth. I'm damaged goods. Nobody's going to love me. And because he still wanted to be with me, I fell madly in love. Now, what we didn't know is that, he was 21 and he came from a very abusive mother, a very brutal alcoholic. He was the youngest of 4, the only boy. And he would come home from school and see his sisters unconscious on the living room floor. I mean, like, it was brutal. So when we got together, we decided, I'll never let my children be molested. And he said, my kids will never see me drunk. And we thought we fixed it. And so I came to my mom and I said, Mom, I'm going to move in with my boyfriend. He got accepted to LAPD, and I'm going to move in. And no offense, but by her Catholic guidelines, her daughter was not going to live with a man and not be married. So I moved out Monday. I was married Friday. And from that point proceeded the next 18 years of my life, where what we didn't know as young kids in love was the emotional trauma that we were bringing to this marriage. And I do want to say that none of what I'm sharing is to vilify anyone. I am in total gratitude for every aspect of my life. I harbor no anger or resentment, and this isn't about them, right? It's about my journey and what happened, right? And after 18 and a half years, what he brought to the table was verbal, emotional, mental, psychological brutality. And what I brought was how to be a victim. So it was a perfect match. And 3 kids later, my brother's death, his sister committed suicide. His partner at LAPD died of an aneurysm one day, came home, put on a John Wayne movie and died. All this happened in the span of like a year or 2. And his uncle, who was 6'6.5", worked on the boat in the Puget Sound in Washington. And one of those big, huge metal balls with the hooks on them literally fell on his head. Like, we had these tragic events. And I got to the point where I couldn't take the emotional brutality anymore. And at 38 years old, I found myself praying for someone to blow the red light. I wanted to be done. I didn't anticipate that there was another option. Divorce wasn't an option. It just went against everything I was raised. I didn't kill myself because of my children. They're the only reason I'm here. But I was willing that something would happen so I could be done. And it was an act of kindness that I call it a short circuit moment. It short circuited me because this act of kindness, I didn't understand it. My father told me, Jessie, people want to get in your pants, so don't trust anybody. Which of course was
his narrative, his story.
Right. And my ex told me, Jess, subconsciously people want to break up a good thing, so don't talk about our marriage to anybody.
So avoid it.
Yeah, and I was already like, shame was my emotional home already. So now I just looked down at the ground. I didn't make contact. He was extremely jealous and, insecure. So I would get in trouble if I even had banter with the bad boy. It's like, so I just down at the ground. And I took this course, and these people were kind to me, and I I was like, I don't understand. What is this? Like literally, I didn't understand what this feeling was. They were being so good to me.
Disrupted
And
the
they all
narrative.
pulled together and bought me a Best Buy card. It was the littlest thing, but to me, it was everything because I didn't even know to call it kindness.
Yeah. This was a
I just
course you
knew,
took?
yeah, it was a course in emergency medicine because
Ah,
I
and it was the
wanted something
people that
for my
showed you
life.
kindness. Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Yes.
had
Thank you.
kind of lived behind the yellow tape watching him go through LAPD. He
Yes.
got injured on duty, so he had to medically retire, but I wanted to help. And I
Yeah.
thought, I'm never going to be a cop. I'm not going to throw anybody against the wall. However, maybe I could be a firefighter. And so I took an emergency medicine course and I ended up flunking
Mhm.
because my then husband broke his legs and I was in the
Mm.
hospital in the morning, in the middle of the day. I'd go home, feed the kids, go back. I had to stay there till midnight till he fell asleep. I mean, it was just, so I flunked.
Constant. Yep.
And the teacher knew something was going on.
Mm.
And he said, look, I won't fail you. I'll give you an incomplete if you promise to take the course again next semester. And I was like, yes, because I felt like I failed, you know.
Yeah.
And what happened is the course is half lecture, half scenarios.
Okay.
And so the latter part of the class, he does mock 911 calls. I became the patient.
Mhm.
And so I have like men strapping me to a gurney, you know, and I was like terrified. If my husband saw it, I'd be in trouble. But they start like pulling leaves out of my hair. They're pulling me out of bushes and stairwells and they're thanking me. And I'm just like, all I knew is that Saturday class, something came alive in me. And I thought, if I don't know what this feeling is, but if this feeling is available, then life is worth living. And it gave me the courage to get out of my relationship.
I don't know what this feeling is, but if this, then this is life is worth living, excuse me, right?
Yeah.
Just care, tender. Even as you describe that, Jessie, as you write, you literally pulling the leaves out of your hair, pulling you out of bushes. You're seen, you're cared for, you right? You matter. And
Totally.
this, even if it was just rehearsal, right? If it's not right, not the dangerous, right? But you were scared, you mentioned, right? We talk a lot about the difference between scary versus dangerous. And even so, you were able to lean into these scary places and still receive care. You matter. And it
Yeah.
flipped it. I love what you said. It short circuited. It short circuited. This doesn't match what we've had before. There's
That's it.
something else out there.
Yeah, very much. And I honestly wish those people knew, right? I
Oh,
wish I had a list of their numbers to tell them who they woke up.
yes.
And what I really
Oh,
want to say to like
mm,
you and your audience, like,
yeah.
because, you know, when we look at what's happening in the world, we can get depressed. We can start, because what the news and society shows us is man's inhumanity to man. And we feel helpless to make a difference.
Mhm.
And I want everyone to know that the smallest act of kindness can shift the trajectory of someone's life like it did mine. To me, it saved my life and it's put
Mm.
me on a mission to help affect change in the world and to shift people's trauma into triumph so that they never have to live and suffer from the pain that they endured in their life. So don't underestimate the power of your love.
Mm. Trauma into triumph. Don't underestimate the power of your love. Wow.
I'll come full circle with the quote. When I came out of that marriage,
Yes.
I became obsessed. I thought, I'm 38 years old and I have no idea who I
Mm. Mm-hmm.
am. And I'm like, ask my family, do you know what color I like, what my favorite food is? I'm like, I know you don't because I don't. And I had an insatiable hunger to understand humanity.
Yeah.
So I started to read, I started to go to workshops, seminars, I went to therapy. I wanted to understand why my dad did what he did, why my mom ignored it, why my husband did what he did, and why I allowed it.
Mm.
And I was a study. And from that, my therapist had told me, you should be a coach. And I was like, soccer coach? Like, what are you talking about? This is back, you know, in 2003,
Yes.
right? Like it wasn't as big as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked it up and I thought, oh, wow, I love this. I started, and as you know, as we go through it, right?
Oh,
As we
the
learn,
only way out
right,
is
how to
through.
help others,
Oh,
we help
yes.
ourselves.
Oh,
And
yes.
so it was just, I loved doing it. I was working in corporate full time, literally till 8 o'clock at night. I had clumps of hair falling out. I was like,
Yes.
no, doctor wanted to put me on beta blockers. And I'm like, yeah, I quit 2 weeks later.
Need a lifestyle
But then
change. Yeah.
yeah. And then I went to a Tony Robbins event and got totally like, oh my God, I want to work here. So there's a whole back end story of how I got there, but worked for him for 7 years. And then from that, you know, there's been an evolution. Heart math trainer. I went to India to study meditation. I worked with a shaman for a year, an apprentice. I've done all this stuff, but nothing has taught me more than my journey. And just when, you know, I have lived this life now, and I know that my conviction in this lifetime is to serve people out of suffering.
Yes.
I can't take your pain away, because pain is a part of life, but suffering is the part that's a choice. And the suffering is where we handcuff ourselves to the belief, like with my brother, like if I argue, like Byron Katie, you know, she says, when you argue with reality, you lose 100% of the time. And if you say that shouldn't have happened, she says, well, it should have, because it did. And if I did for a while, trust me, I argued, this isn't the way, my brother's alive, I know this is not true. But all I did was create more suffering. And I'm closing this loop to recognize that even though my life was committed in service, I had seen my darkest moments. And November 14th of last year, my little brother was murdered. And talk about an uppercut. Like, I was like, no. Like, I got the memo. I'm living in service. I'm giving back. Like, what the frick?
Yeah.
Here's what I know. Everything that I learned in that moment, I had to live. I had to use. I had to eat my own medicine. I had to look for the gift in the darkest moments. I had to find, because I have a belief, I don't consider myself religious anymore. I'm more spiritual than I am religious, but I connect with God all the time. And I'm like, God, show me what, if I'm meant to live and my brothers are meant to be taken, what do you want with me?
Damn.
And looking for the light in the darkest moments. And in my gut-wrenching sorrow of my little brother, I was witness to my family showing up in a way that I've never seen. I was witness to 3 of his daughters who had never met before fall in love with each other like they've been sisters forever. I was witness to posts on his Instagram of how he affected change in their life. And I could be in massive sorrow and still see the beauty. And I had to use every ounce of mindset, every ounce of, and it was tough because my mom was enraged and my mom was angry, and I'm constantly, well, Mom, but what if it was this, and what if it meant that? And she would be angry with me, and she's like, you don't know your brother. And I'm like, I'm not arguing about that. I just have to look for the good. It's my survival. Now my survival is I have to look for the gift, because I don't believe God wastes the pain. I believe we do if we choose to. And if this pain is meant to be a part of my journey, then I will seek the good. I will look for the purpose in it. And I believe completely now that all of the people in my path, my father, my ex, my brothers, have signed up in this lifetime to be the catalyst for my awakening, so that I can make this difference. And I was just talking to a friend. I'm like, do I wish I could get the memo differently? Hell yes. I wish it didn't have to come with such a big uppercut. Abso-freaking-lutely.
Oh yeah.
But what I know is that my brother, he's great. He shifted energy. That's all that happened. There was a rebirth. He's now in peace.
He's in peace.
He was 15 when our older brother was murdered, and he idolized him. And ever since, he was seeking him in other men, to the point where he joined gangs, and he was in and out of prison, and he was doing all these things. But at the moment that his life was taken, he was shot in the back. He was taking his 6 and 7-year-old to school and helping them and picking them up. He was still living in the heart of Compton.
Yeah.
But he was no different than me. Because what I learned about him was he was the light in the darkest areas. So this quote means that much more to me, because I stand in honor of both my brothers. And I'm committed to bringing light to the darkest moments of everyone's life, everyone that I can touch. That's the full circle.
Thank you for sharing. I'm gonna take a minute because I'm clearly tearful over here, right? I don't think I have ever cried on a podcast with a guest. Your sharing your story, thank you so much. It's an honor to hear you share and to be in this space with you. Thank you, Jessie. Your ability to capture the essence of light throughout these scenes of darkness, to be able to see it show up in yourself, to be able to cultivate it in yourself, to be able to try to connect with others to help them see a light, and also for your just in even in this last moment, sharing this ability to share, to see, excuse me, your brother as the light in the darkness. The reality of that's not a made up thing. The reality that he was the light in the darkness. And I think I'm so overcome because because of so many people that we see who are in the darkness and they don't know they're the light.
In their mindset, they're just beating themselves up, hating themselves for the things they've done wrong.
Oh my gosh, yes.
But you know what? When he was in prison, he was speaking at the AA meetings. He was like, he goes, Jess, I just get bored. They talk about stupid stuff. And so he started taking the reins, and inmates were like telling him how he's helped them and he's inspired them and they're going to do good when they get out. And I told him, I said, get testimonials. He got 23 testimonials from inmates in prison saying how his lectures helped them shift their mindset. And I knew then, and we talked about, I go, you're going to be on stage with me. You're going to speak to young men that won't listen to me, but they'll listen to you. And we talked about it. And then, you know, life happens and, you know, he's trying to do good, but he's got this background, and which is a whole nother thing that I want to help focus on now. And, you know, and it's just, he was immersed, but he was still the light. He was still the light. And I see it now so crystal clear. And there was a moment that he actually, and I don't want to spook anybody, but he came to me, like he literally, because I was hearing stories. I had baby mamas messaging me, telling me their kids were his. I mean, there was so much chaos trying to understand who killed him. And I was hearing all these stories, and I'm like, what the frick? Like, what else did he get into, and what did he do, and blah, blah, blah. And literally, he's just like, hey, sis, we got to talk. And this was after, like, I spent 20 minutes trying to find a movie to just escape. You know, I'm like looking at all the previews, and I finally find one, and he's like, come on, we got to talk. And I'm like, what the frick? Am I hearing things? Like what? No, I just picked a movie. He's like, come on. And I'm like, whatever. I go and I put my pajamas on, and I'm like, maybe I'm just whatever. I don't know. I'm just being weird. I come back, I sit down, and he's like, come on. And I'm like, all right. And how I connect is I just close my eyes and I type. And what came through and what he said to me, he said, don't get consumed with my life there on earth. He said, I partnered with you to help you see the ripple effect of the abuse and how deep it can go. And I needed to show you the aspects of what that looks like in the element that I was in. And that he couldn't receive my love because the more I loved him, the more shame he felt. And the more I forgave, the more he had to do to not feel the guilt and the shame. And I asked him, and I said, you know, then should I not have forgiven so quickly? Like, I feel like it caused more pain. And he said, no. He said, the way you loved me had nothing to do with my contract with God. everything was in divine order. And I realized in that moment that this is all part of the divine plan. If I look at the chessboard of Jessie's world and all the pieces and all the people that have come in, like I think about people like John Walsh, who created America's Most Wanted at the death of his 6-year-old son who was kidnapped. And what God in the universe, if you look at it, they knew who John Walsh would be on the other side of his pain. They knew that they needed him to suffer this in this world tragedy, so that he could wake up and serve the many that he did.
The awakening.
And so I see this as this divine plan and this orchestration, and I am committed and convicted to take all of this pain and alchemizing it into something beautiful so that we can make an impact, because we can make an impact. We can make a difference with the tiniest of our tenderness. We've just lost it. We've lost it because we're told, I was told, Jessie, love's nice. That's a nice girl, but love doesn't pay the bills. And now I'm like, you know what? If you don't love your clients, you won't have any. If you don't love your employees, they will not be connected to your mission. And if you do not love your family, they will leave you. So tell me it's not about freaking love. And I'm a stand for that. And I know you are too. And I'm super honored to be on your show, because I've seen the work that you're doing. And I love connecting with kindred spirits like you who get it. You get it. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful to each and every human being that hears this message and decides with intent that when they wake up tomorrow morning and before their feet touch the ground, that they make a decision to go out and ask yourself the question, whose life will be better because of me today? And you go out into the world and you compliment the smile on the Starbucks lady who made your freaking latte, and open the door for somebody. And then when you go to bed at night, ask yourself, whose life was better because of me today? And you do that every flipping day. And moms with your kids, do that at dinner. Do it at breakfast and at dinner. Tell your kids, whose life's going to be better because of you today, son? And start teaching them to go with intention, to be kind, and to make someone's life better, because you never know the chaos that they're going through.
Goodness. You never know the chaos. There are so many elements to what you are sharing and what you have to offer. I wish we could do a mini series with you. I'm not going to lie. Okay.
I'm here for it.
We may talk, Jessie, we may talk. Stay tuned, folks. But this to say, there are so many people out there listening who are in the dark, or have been in the dark, in the shadows, in that sleeping state that we keep referencing every now and then, right? And the thing that, right, and we don't know exactly what it will be every time, but the thing that can wake them up so that they realize that they are the light, that they can be the light. And when you share this last bit about this really cultivating that light, right? When you say kindness, tenderness, those are the actions and the behaviors that we see behind the intentional imagery of I am the light. The light begins within me. And if I cultivate kindness and tenderness within myself, because I am worthy of that, I am worthy of feeling that kindness and tenderness within myself. And I've cultivated that, and now I can offer it to someone else. I can share that. I can give of myself, and I can be the light for someone else, because I don't know where they are in their life. And I do know that if I don't challenge the darkness, if I don't disrupt the darkness, if I don't, right, fill in the blank with whatever word it is that somebody needs to wake up from their own darkness and see the light. If I don't do that, it is predictable. Darkness is oppressive. It is oppressive. It is difficult to see through, and it is hard to reach out. It is doable, but it is hard.
Well, you know, your point is so spot on. And here's what I'd love to share around that. To be crystal clear, darkness cannot win the light. If you look at it from the perspective of a dark room that's pitch black, and you
Yes.
bring a tiny light bulb, it's going to illuminate that room. Now you go
Boom.
outside, you grab more darkness, you bring it in the room. It doesn't matter so long as that light is lit. What
Mm.
happens is when darkness comes, it's not that it wins, it's that we dim. In our darkest moments is our
Responding.
opportunity to turn up the light.
Ooh, hoo, hoo, hoo.
And it's not always easy.
Nope.
It's a simple thing, but it's not always easy. My constant mantra is in moments that I don't feel so loving,
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, Jessie, what would love do right now? What would love do?
What would love do
Because
right now?
our life is the quality of our life is in direct proportion to the quality of questions we ask ourselves.
Mm.
And what I used to ask myself was, what's wrong with me? That used to be
Mm.
my question
You
all the
said what
time.
the center, what's at the center ripples out, y'all, right? Is it what's wrong with me? That's what's rippling out, right? How can I turn up my light today? That's what's going to ripple out, right? Whatever's at the
Exactly.
center.
And we all have that voice, right? The minute I say what's wrong with me, that part shows up for duty. And she's like, oh, well, let me tell you, Jessie, this, and this,
Yes.
right? When I
Yes.
ask what would love do, there's another part of there's a connection with
Different
spirit,
character,
God, that
different part.
says, this is a moment, this is a
Yes.
test for you.
Mm.
You are love. You know that to be true. And it doesn't feel like love wants to play right now, but you need to ask, what would love do? And you need to suck it up, buttercup, and be loving.
Mm.
It doesn't mean I
Mm.
need to be in somebody's bullseye. Get this right. It doesn't mean that I have to be on the other side of someone's pain,
Mm-hmm.
but I get to have compassion and walk away, because when somebody treats you unkind, it's a reflection of their pain, not your truth.
Yes.
If you receive it as your truth, that's on you.
Mm.
Now, not to say that it doesn't feel good. It sucks
Mhm.
when somebody treats you unkind, but
Yes.
oftentimes it's like a woman walks into a room and you'll have 9 ladies say, wow, you know what? Pink looks amazing on you. And that one says, yeah, I don't know, kind of washes you out.
And that's the one that'll stick with you.
We run to the bathroom to go check, why does it wash me out? Like, right? And so
Yes.
because
Yes.
we listen to that one person. It's like, if it's not true, why do we
Yes.
own it as though it is?
This, I love that you're sharing this. We have this image that we use in the empowered human world, right? When we talk about consensually driven engagement with humanity, right? Like really, how do you turn up the volume on your humanity, right?
Mhm.
Not the fact that I'm a mother or a lover or a partner or a woman or an American. The fact that I am human at my core. I cannot cleave this from me, right? I can't change that. And if I say, I am across the table from you, right? With every person I engage with, there's a table between us. And when I say something, do something, act something, I put that as an offering on the table. Even if it sounds like a demand or a command, it is just an offering on the table. It is up to the other person at the other side of the table. Do you eat it? Are you consuming the story that I'm trying to feed you? If I'm trying to feed you love and kindness and generosity, and you don't want to eat that story, I need to know boundaries, Nina. Boundaries. This person doesn't have capacity for your love. They don't have capacity for your generosity. It doesn't mean that I don't offer it. It means I know I need to be able to pull back because I'm not going to be nourished at this table right now. They don't have capacity to offer it back.
That's right.
Mm,
But see, in you recognizing they don't have capacity, that's your
that's a big
empathetic
one.
heart,
That's a big
having
one.
compassion, and just, I'm not going to force it. It's not, it's just, they don't have that capacity, and I can see that. And so I pull out. And I actually had a moment like that where, the story doesn't matter, but there was 2 tables arguing
Yeah.
over whether I should be added to a group chat. And I'm sitting right there. And it has its back end story, because somebody did something rotten that was in the group chat and they kicked him out, and so now they
I
all want to
see.
vote and whatever, but I had no idea. And there was a lady that throughout this week, this was in Costa Rica,
Mhm,
she was the spiritual one supposedly, but she
mhm,
was, from my perspective, treating these ladies really badly. Like, she was judging, like a lady had a breakthrough with one of the speakers,
mhm.
and this spiritual lady, she goes, you would have had that with me if you would have taken my program. And she was like shaming them, like, and I'd been witness to this whole
Yep.
time. And so now in this moment, I'm sitting in this restaurant and these 2 tables are going at it, and that lady, the spiritual one, she's at the other end of the other table, and she stands up and she goes, everybody, and she cursed, she's, shit, sit the F down, stop. And I felt a rage come through me, and I was like, and I just stopped and I said, I love you all. I am massively triggered. I'm out. I didn't even know what happened. I was just like, I'm right now, I'm in a triggered moment. I don't know what the frick is I know what I wanted to say.
Yep.
I wanted
Yep.
to say, sit the frick down and stop being this
Yes.
bully. But I knew I was triggered and I could feel that inside. And I'm just like, okay, I have to pull out. And I did. And I pulled myself away and I just processed through. And what came
Yes.
through was that what she triggered in me was how my ex-husband treated me, the bully he was.
Yep. Yep.
And that behavior just woke up that pain body. And I was like, okay, right now I'm in an emotional state of like out of control. I need to regulate.
Yep.
I got to step out.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yes.
it was one of the best decisions I made because I could recognize it, but I called it out. And I'd love for like your audience to know that the best place to live is in complete honesty, even though you have no freaking clue what's happening.
Yes.
I don't know what's happening. I'm in a weird funk right now. I'm freaking out. I don't know. That's what's going on.
Boom.
I
That's
can't
the
explain
truth.
it. Don't know where it's coming from. And in relationship, stop
Mhm.
saying yes when you mean no.
Yes. Yes. Right. This is, oh
You
my
don't
gosh,
have
this
to
is,
explain.
oh, don't defend, right? There's so many, we really do have to do a mini series, Jessie, at this point. There's so many different pieces here. And I know we're technically coming up at the end of the episode. I want to very quickly go through some of them because we're talking about, oh, I hope I grab as many as I can. Okay, here we go. We got you in the restaurant. You're already triggered, right? This is an emotional hijacking, right? This is literally an emotion has hijacked you. The only thing we can do at this point is acknowledge I have been hijacked. I am no longer in my logical, rational state of mind to make a wise decision. I must retreat to take care of myself. I must fill in the blank, right, with whatever it is to take care of myself so that I can then show up for others. Because what's going to happen when we're hijacked, y'all? What you described, Jessie, was the difference between a powered moment and an empowered moment. Powered moment after she jumped up, but she was totally doing a powered moment. Everybody shut the F up, powered moment, right? But when you noticed that you felt the rage come up, you could have spewed that over everyone. It would have been a powered moment, but you would have probably felt a little bit of relief and everybody else would have felt shut down, right? But instead you said, no powered moments here. I am going to empower this moment. I am valid in this moment. These people are valid. They do not deserve that. I'm going to remove myself because that is the thing I am responsible for. It's the only thing we're responsible for, ourselves, our thoughts, our feelings, behaviors. There is so much empowerment in being able to recognize I have the power to leave the situation.
Yes.
So you
very well said. Very well said. That was awesome.
take care of yourself. I mean, and this is, we won't have the chance to even talk about this, but throughout this whole episode, what we have touched on is the consistent lack of people's emotional sobriety. Before we lose any kind of sobriety, alcoholic, sexual, gaming, codependence, it doesn't matter. Wherever kind of struggle with addiction we're having, whether it's behavioral or, medication, substance use, whatever the case is, we lose emotional sobriety first. We don't have the skills to deal with the emotional piece. So the emotion hijacks us. We become overwhelmed. And then we go find something to control, like a relationship, like how we're going to do, right? And then we focus so much on that. And this is that sleep mode engages. It's like, just stay here. You'll be protected if you just stay here and control this, right? Meanwhile, our emotions are still, they're haywire and they're still wreaking havoc on our life. And so, I mean, when you talked about just waking up, right? And the different moments of God, and the sharing of your siblings coming to share messages with you, stunning sharing of light, just so beautiful. But the ability to keep coming back, there's so many things that I want to be able to share just thematically. What is so clear is to keep coming back to the light. Where is the light? Where can I cultivate the light in myself? How can I offer the light to others? Right? How can I go from trauma to triumph? Because ultimately what we're also hearing in this is trauma, for everybody who doesn't know out there, is not something bad that happens to you. It's what remains in you after something bad has happened. So not everybody will have trauma, say after a car accident. Some people it will remain and stay in the body. It will feel like things are dangerous, right? When really it's just scary. The car accident is done. The abuse is done. The horror is done, right? But the trauma stays in us. If we don't process through the trauma, it echoes. It echoes out in our life. It causes these ripple effects. And you use that word that your brother shared. You see the ripple effect of what abuse has done. If we don't disrupt the narrative, it just gets passed on. It's not a mystery. It's not a secret. If you avoid and don't disrupt the narrative, it gets passed on because it's what you have to offer. But if we can change what we have to offer and cultivate this light, despite the darkness, y'all, there's going to be darkness. There's going to be darkness. And if we can start learning this, gaining the skills to cultivate that light, to offer that light, we can flip the script on intergenerational trauma, on relational trauma, on identity trauma. Y'all, I could keep going. We can flip the script on trauma if we're just willing to gain the skills to do this. I'm going to stop talking. I know we're at the end of the episode, and I want to talk about our main takeaways. Jessie, what's sitting with you? How are you doing over there? I'm going to share. You're going to share. What are we sitting with? What do we really want the audience to hear at this point?
You know, one of the things Tony Robbins says is your past doesn't equal your future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I disagree.
Ooh.
I disagree because your past can equal your future. You're just remembering the suffering. You're just remembering what happened to you. What if it happened for you? What if I think about my journey and when I was little, I would build traps to warn me when my dad was coming into my room. And it didn't always stop him, but somehow it made me feel better. I can look at that and say, wow, how tragic that a little girl had to create traps so she could be warned of her father sneaking into her room, which is true.
Yes, it is tragic, right? Period.
But what's also true,
yep. Yes,
is that I was massively creative and I was massively resourceful, and it took a lot of courage to know what was coming and still try to work through something. And what I didn't know was that later in my divorce, I was going to need massive amounts of resourcefulness. I was going to need, my husband walked away from everything, flipped me upside down, foreclosed the house, turned in the cars and repoed them. I mean, I was so upside down, I couldn't even see straight. So if God could whisper to you and say in your darkest moments, I know this sucks right now, but if you knew what I know is coming, you would know why I need you to build resilience right now. You would know why I need you to build courage right now. And you would see that there's something there. It is a divine choreography. It's not happening to you. It's happening on your behalf if you choose to see the courageous little girl, because that is also true. Both are right. One causes me suffering and the other one allows me to fall in love with her. Yes. And when I fall in love with her, I gain the power that the pain gave me.
That is yours.
It didn't take me out. It woke me up.
Yes.
And now I get to utilize that and transmute it and alchemize it into something beautiful, because I am the decision maker of my life and what I decide to do with the pain. So your past can equal your future. You just got to see the other side. And it's a choice. And to be fair, and it's not all our fault, but we are taught to be the victim. We're taught to notice our victimhood, and we wear it like a security blanket. Don't you know I'm not successful because this happened to me? Don't you know she left me because this happened to me? Don't you know I drink because this happened to me? And if we get rid of that, we actually have to stand in our greatness, and that freaks us out, because you are a miracle. And you matter, and you are that big.
You are that big.
Spirit.
Yes, right? Oh my gosh, we just walked into so many new spaces that I wish we could expand and explore so much of this. We will be talking. I will hit you up after this podcast episode. So that people can really get your greatness, right? Because it is so clear to me that you are a light. That you have been through things that it got your line. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna rewind, and I'm probably gonna save a snapshot from this episode of if God could whisper to you and say, you don't know what's coming. If you knew what I knew, I think that was the right to say, if you knew what I knew. And if I could take that, right, and that line and use that as my mantra when I am in my darkest moments, weeping, broken, feeling shattered, like the world doesn't make sense, right? Everything is upside down. And I just ask myself, wait a minute, if I just knew, right? If I could only know what some all-knowing being knew, if I only knew what the future held for me, if I could just get back up and figure out what is it I can take from this if it were for me, right? And the nuance of that for my audience out there, it is not about, because I will hear this so often, it is not about saying abuse is okay, or the trauma is what we needed, or, resilience is there's so many, right? It's
Yeah, so
about
important.
acknowledging pain is a part of reality, right? Trauma is a real thing. And while we cannot stop those things from happening necessarily, right? We can't predict the future. We can't stop those things from happening, but we can absolutely find the skills and what works for us to say, I can flip the script on this and change the way that I relate to this. This is not about your image. This is not about, right, the little girl who was the victim. Fact, right? Just terrible things happened to her. And she was courageous and creative and a survivor. She survived, and the woman standing in front of me is a fucking thriving human being who helps other people through it. So much more I could say about you, you beautiful freaking soul. I would love to have you on again in the future, but you have some resources that I want the audience to hear about, okay? I want them to hear about your resources. What do you have coming up? We're going to get this episode out as soon as we can so people can get in there.
Okay, so I do work with trauma. So unshakeablelife.com is my website. You can go there and you can watch the video and book a call with me. But what I'm really looking forward to in September, which I'm super excited about, is the Army of Angels, which is a mastermind that I'm creating to bring people together that are wanting to affect change in the world.
Yes.
So it's a me, we, they concept. We take care of the being first.
Yes.
We become sovereign. Where in your pie of life are you not at a 10? Let's get you there. I've worked with a lot of coaches. I have a lot of resources to help close that gap. And when we are strong and solid, we go to the we part, which now we collaborate and we come together. Where do we want to make a difference in the world? And this isn't about just writing a check to a nonprofit. This is boots on ground, connecting with a coalition of random acts of kindness, a group of people that want to go read to veterans that have no family, whatever it is, boots on ground. Where do we want to affect change? We come together, we do it, and the they part is actually going out and doing it. And so I am so excited, and I believe my brother is leading the charge with me on this. And we are going to bring light in the darkest places, and we're going to come together as an army of angels and grow and become a force for good out there in the world. Because one thing I want your audience to know, light is still winning. Light is still winning. Don't get seduced by the darkness you're fed. Light is still winning, and we need to unite. We want it. It's deep within us. And so Army of Angels is going to be ourarmyofangels.com. And the last thing, I have a 10-step guide that I'm going to offer your audience that I'll give to you to put in the show notes. And it's a 10-step guide to freedom. And it's just for those of you that are in your darkest moments right now, and you feel like there's no way out. You feel like you don't understand, Jessie and Nina. I don't have the money. I don't have the resources. I'm stuck in this situation. This guide will give you the tiniest steps that you can take right now to begin liberating yourselves. And trust me when I tell you, it works. It works. And there is hope for you. There is a way out. You just can't see it right now. And I totally get it. But if I can be any beacon of light, I want you to know that there is a way out, and there's another way of living, and you don't deserve the pain you're in.
Thank you so much, Jessie FierceGrace Torres.
Thank you,
Everything
Nina.
you just shared will be in the show notes, y'all. So you don't have to rewind it, although you are welcome to. It will be in the show notes. You just scroll on down and click the resource that you need, right? I like to offer an adventure challenge for people in episodes, right? I love that you said the me, we, they concept, because I know you empowered humans out there, we do the same thing, right? We say self, other, world at large. That's the language we use, right? It's a me, we, they, right? You got to start with the self-justice if you want to do justice beyond, right? How do I do my self-justice? And so my adventure challenge to you audience out there, right? You have just heard from an incredible, bright human being. This is a soul that has known pain. This is a soul that intentionally chooses to cultivate the light, even when the darkness comes in, to turn the volume up. It is a practice. It is a way that Jessie lives. And if you are the person out there saying, well, I can't because of XYZ thing, you just take you a breath on in and you put that thing on the table. Let it go, put it out of your hands, take it off your back. You put it on the table in front of you for a second. And you just ask yourself the same question that Jessie's been asking us this entire episode. Where is the light? Even the smallest bit of light. Well, this is just for now. Well, at least I'm going to see somebody later. Well, I've got this thing I'm looking forward to. Well, I like the leaf color outside my window. The smallest bit of light, and you turn the volume up. That is my adventure challenge to you this upcoming week, inspired by this episode with Jessie in this moment. Go to the resources if it's what you need, and take this adventure challenge when you are in the darkness. Utilize this energy that Jessie's just imbued us with, and ask yourself, where is the light, and how do I turn up the volume on that light in my life? Because yes, you matter, and yes, you absolutely deserve it. Jessie, thank you for being here with us. Thank you so much. It's been a true honor. Thank you so much for being willing to explore healing your humanity on Empowered Human. I hope you found at least one new way to transform your worldview from powered to empowered. If you took something from the show, please take a moment of your time and subscribe to Empowered Human. And if it really nourished you, leave us a review. Your feedback helps me understand what our community needs. Not to mention, it helps others discover the empowered human life. So keep this last bit in mind. All the visual goodies come with me on Instagram at Drama Therapist Nina. Stay up to date there on upcoming episodes, behind the scenes goodness, and reels dropping knowledge. Thank you again for being part of the Empowered Human community. Until next time, stay curious.